Welcome everyone to today's Q3 Sustainability Committee meeting. I'm seeing a couple new names and faces. I think a bunch of folks from the Novellis team got invited, so happy to have you guys here. So I'll just do a quick little intro and get on with the agenda because we have a lot going on today. Again, I'm Helen Peterson. I'm the Sustainability Manager at Livable Buckhead. If you're not familiar with us, we are a nonprofit organization in the neighborhood, and our mission is to create a positive impact in Buckhead. So it's always an amazing place to live, work, and play. We firmly believe that, fostering a culture of sustainability through all of our programming is a real key to our success in that mission. We have our hands in a lot of programming, as you can see in all these little buckets here. As Denise, our executive director, says, if there's something you like about Buckhead, it's probably because we've had something to do with it. But where we really shine is convening groups to get stuff done. And that's for the real purpose of this committee work, to bring together, sustainability professionals and advocates in the neighborhood to share ideas and just support each other in our initiatives and elevate our collective efforts to make a bigger impact. So today we'll be hearing from some of the folks in the neighborhood and hear about what they've been working on and how we can elevate their efforts. So first up, we are going to be hearing from Sally Bethea. She is the founding director of Chattahoochee Riverkeeper. And for the past 30 years, she's worked on water issues and impact in Atlanta. And she's chronicled all those juicy stories in a recent memoir called Keeping the Chattahoochee, where she dives into all the drama and insights on how to collectively fight for clean water in the area. And as you guys know, a lot of people did not have clean water in the area recently when we had those pipes bursting. So I figured she would be the great person to have the deepest insights and to let us know what those underlying issues are and what we can be done to address them. So with that, I'll pass it over to Sally.
Thanks so much, Helen. I really appreciate your inviting me to participate. I've been retired 10 years now, so it's funny. It's fun for this old person to still be able to connect with you good young folks who are doing the work in Buckhead, where I actually grew up. My family moved to North Stratford Road in the 1950s, mid 1950s. And so, and in fact, the creek behind the house I grew up in Buckhead has actually officially been named Riverkeeper Creek. So if you look at your maps, you'll find it. For anybody who doesn't know, Chattahoochee Riverkeeper is a nonprofit environmental advocacy organization. We are celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. And I say we because I just think I'll go to my grave saying we probably, as the founding director. We began 30 years ago with a small grant from the Turner Foundation. And I'm proud to say that today the organization is led by a young man named Jason Ulseth, who's doing a fantastic job. And we have 3 offices, many boats, all kinds of 5 different water quality monitoring labs, 18 staff, and a nice little budget. So we've grown it over the years because water is that important. It is critical, and most people don't think about it, until we have too much water, flooding, intense rains and such, like that rain bomb that we had last fall in downtown Atlanta, or until like in early June, some areas in the city had no potable drinking water. And so anybody who deals with the infrastructure that, the pipes and whatever else that creates a community knows that we often don't think about, appreciate, or understand the need to invest in these things until there's a crisis. And in my study over many, many, many years of environmental issues, it is sadly crises that cause things to be done way too often. So in just I know you'll have some questions, so I just want to give a high kind of overview here in the short time that we have. When we started our organization in 1994, we knew that there were many things polluting the Chattahoochee River and its watershed, which I'm sure you know is the land area which drains into a river as the river then flows with gravity to the sea. So the river is just the compilation of everything that's happening on the land and flowing into the little creeks, bigger creeks, and so forth. And so we have focused on the Chattahoochee watershed from where the river begins up above Helen, and today down to the Florida line, which is some nearly, I think, 19,000 square miles of land. So it's a lot. It's a big task, and it's made even harder because sadly our local and state governments and federal governments don't always have sufficient resources or the political will to ensure the Federal Clean Water Act is enforced and adhered to. And so our organization, like many other water keepers around the world, there are more than 300 water keeper groups. There are actually 9 river keepers in Georgia. And in every case, we do whatever we need to do to try to clean up the river and provide enough clean water to people and wildlife. And so when we started in 94, we knew the city of Atlanta had for decades been dumping raw sewage into creeks and into the river, that its sewage treatment plants, its sanitary piping system, and its drinking water system were absolutely just decrepit and needed a massive, expensive overhaul. Did anybody in government want to do that? No, they kept kicking the can down the road. The federal EPA, the state Environmental Protection Division would just look the other way. They knew from Peachtree Creek down to West Point Lake, which is about 70 miles, that the river was virtually septic, and the state wouldn't allow boat ramps back then in the 90s to be built because they just figured Atlanta would always have this drainage canal, like a pollution channel, to take away waste in violation of federal law. So when we started, we convened a group of people downstream. We looked into all the issues, found out indeed, you know, it wasn't hard to look at the data and look in the files and see the violations. So we tried to work with Mayor Campbell. Some of you may remember him, did not want to work with us. So we filed suit in federal court. We won in 97. We settled in 98, 99. We were able to bring the US EPA in. It was really a last resort lawsuit in front of a federal judge because clean water, as I said, and enough of it, is not just an environmental issue. Certainly, it's a public health issue. It's an economic prosperity issue. And so when we prevailed and the city finally, and many people inside the city were thrilled that they finally had to do the work to upgrade 2,000 miles of sanitary sewer lines, combined sewer overflows, and sewage plants. They got going, and under Shirley Franklin, whose administration started in 2002, she raised money. She, as you know, probably know, she was the sewer mayor, she called herself. She wanted to get into office and do all kinds of other things, but she found that there was this ginormous mess on her hands, and she just said, well, she's gonna do it and see it through. And there's been a little movie put together called Saving the Chattahoochee, in which Shirley and I actually have a conversation right near here at my kitchen table. And she says that in her 8 years, sewers were what she thought about every day, and that she even dreamed about sewers. It was that consuming. It is that big of a subject. The pipes, the systems that take away our waste and then hopefully meet the federal standards so that people downstream and the life in the rivers or lakes or whatever you're discharging into are safe. So she was fantastic. She built a team of competent people, and ultimately $2 billion was raised or has been spent, over $2 billion. Now, there are some problems I'll go to in a minute that have emerged in the last few years, but money was raised, results were dramatic in the river being cleaned up downstream of Peachtree Creek. You may be familiar with the Riverlands project that Trust for Public Land and others are doing. down through that area that used to be filled with bacteria and E. coli. And so the river was cleaner. And so lots of great plans for parks and paddle trails all the way from Beaufort Dam down to West Point, or not quite to West Point, down to Coweta County, to Chattahoochee Bend State Park. So lots of great results on that. Now, at the time when she and her people, Shirley, started looking into the sewer pipes, she also, and folks at Georgia Tech, President Clough convened a panel, and they looked and they said, you know what? The drinking water system is just as bad. The pipes are just as bad. Now, our organization could not take that issue into court to force the city to develop a plan and keep raising money and fix it. But Shirley, always thinking long term, said, I'm going to create Clean Water Atlanta, and I am going to raise money, nearly $4 billion, to fix both these decrepit systems. We've got the judge telling us you can't pollute anymore, you know, in the sewer part system, and then the separate drinking water system, we're going to raise money and we're going to find out how to fix it. So she left office in 2010, and money has been raised continually. The what do you call it? The municipal option sales tax is now raising an enormous amount of money. It's approved every 4 years. Money does not seem to be the problem. What seems to be the issue is that in subsequent mayors and city councils, Shirley was followed by Kasim, as you know, and then Keisha Lance Bottoms, and now Andre Dickens. And it does not appear that the infrastructure, water and sewers, has been made a priority in those subsequent administrations in terms of staying on top of what's called the watershed department in the city, which are the folks that deal with water and sewer infrastructure. And of course, this isn't just the mayoral office, this is city council too. I mean, they've got the role in overseeing all this. And so the Riverkeeper has probably the most robust water quality monitoring program in the Chattahoochee Basin, far beyond anything any government agency has. And Jason, the current Riverkeeper and director, last fall, taking samples downstream of the city's big R.M. Clayton sewage plant that you may have heard of, found very high levels of pollutants. And in that circumstance, called the state, called the city. Anyway, since last fall, the Riverkeeper has been collecting data, showing everyone what's going on down there and trying to get the city to respond. So we've got many steps forward and then some backward on the sewer system, which has just got me absolutely, I practically cried when I read the report of the current situation at the plants, because they had gotten, everything had worked out so well. But if you don't, you can buy something gold plated, install it. But if you don't have operation and maintenance, you don't have leadership, you all know this, you don't have the professional people in place, then the systems fall to crap, So literally in this case. At the same time, under Shirley, I think she said about $1 billion was spent on the drinking water system. But then it doesn't seem that much was spent after that time. After she left. And so here we ended up with this horrific situation with the pipes, all the leaks and in the system, and people didn't have water for 6 days and so forth. But that wasn't a surprise to any of us who've been looking at this for a long time, frankly. And so Shirley, thankfully, has been appointed to a small task force by Mayor Dickens, and she told me this morning they've met 2 times. The first was organizational, the second was updates, and now the administration is developing a framework for review. Now their charge is going to be drinking water system. Whether Shirley can get them to look at the problems ongoing with the sewer system, I'm not sure. But the Riverkeeper and others have been pushing the city to find out why, even today, the RM Clayton plant is not discharging water clean enough to meet the permit standards of the Federal Clean Water Act. Why is that happening? And delay. So the Riverkeeper in early July sent something called a notice of intent to sue. And the state and the city and everyone involved has got 60 days to either fix the problem or we'll go back to federal court. That's a lot of information. And I think I'll just stop here because I don't want to take up all the time and see if you have any questions.
I have a question, like, are the pipes just old, or is Atlanta just growing too fast to maintain all the capacity that's needed? What's the real issue there?
It's both things, you know, it's actually, I'd say probably both things. But you know, the sewer system, when they started trying to repair that, I mean, we're talking about pipes that are 100 years old. That's at, you know, at 50, 70, 100 years old. That's beyond, imagine the plumbing in your house. I had a plumbing disaster, in fact, a year and a half ago, a pipe that was 100 years old. And, you know, you expect, or I should have, and they should expect these things. People don't want to invest in what's underground. They already think, oh, the water bill's too high. It's not, if you ask me, to bring clean water and take away the wastewater. And so there needs to be more education about the cost. And as Shirley has said, when she got the sewer system fixed with the money raised and over many years and the river's much cleaner, it's not just, okay, we can move on. You've got to keep maintaining it and you've got to oversee the people who are in charge. Kasim put in a woman who's now in federal prison for taking bribes. Keisha put in a woman at the head of watershed department who is was fired in May. She had run off literally hundreds of competent people. Where's the mayor's office and where's the city council in seeing these things? They're working on many other things. I understand. This is not the only issue. Anyway.
So what can we as a collective do? Is it speaking at city council or mayor? What can we do?
Well, I think being informed about these issues as much as possible is critical. There will be a time when we see a report from the group that Shirley is on, that Mayor Dickens impaneled, and realize it's both dirty water and it's the clean drinking water, and that it's going to cost money. And because yet again, particularly the drinking water system got kicked down the road for years, it will cost more. I'd say just keep, you know, ask questions, ask your city council people questions, the mayor, where are we on the drinking water system and where are we on meeting clean water laws so our river isn't polluted back the way it was.
Isn't watershed the department that typically has money in the city?
Well, I don't know about other departments, but watershed department does have money. Yeah, they have plenty of money. And, but again, you don't have leadership. You don't have the competent personnel. You have folks who, anecdotally, I'm told by very good people that, were submitting, reports that were, incorrect, you know, saying that water quality was being met at certain levels when it was not. There needs to be a big shakeup, not just a few Band-Aids.
All right. Well, thank you, Sally. Really appreciate that insight. And we will definitely start asking some questions.
And if you want to know some of the background stories, even how people like Newt Gingrich and Cynthia McKinney got involved in helping us prosecute this case the first time around in the 90s and 2000s, I've got some good stories in my book, so I hope you'll check it out.
Yes, and we sent out a link for that in the previous email, and we'll do a follow-up as well. So thank you, Sally.
Thanks, Helen.